Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Selling Greenville, your favorite real estate podcast here in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm your host, as always, Stan McCune, realtor right here in Greenville, and you can find all of my contact information in the show notes if you need a realtor in Greenville, or if you're a realtor in Greenville and you need help, you want to join a team, I can help you with that as well. So please reach out to me. And if you need home, auto, or umbrella insurance, please reach out to Piper Insurance Group, my go-to. A local business right here in the Greenville area. They're my go-to for all of those home products. They can help you in the Carolinas. They can help you in Georgia, including North Carolina, by the way. They can help you with fix and flips, commercial properties, ground up new construction. They can insure all of those different things, and they're independent. So they can quote you with multiple different carriers to make sure that you get the best possible quote. That's something that's becoming increasingly important right now as insurance companies are denying a lot of claims are denying to insure roofs that are older than 10 years old. There's all sorts of shady things that insurance companies are doing. So you want to make sure that you don't get stuck with one of those. And Piper Insurance Group can ensure that that does not happen. So please reach out to them for a free quote today. Their contact information is in the show notes. And please don't be that guy that listens to this every week or gal that listens to this show every week but doesn't smash the subscribe button, doesn't smash the rating button to give us 5 stars, doesn't leave a short review. Listen, these things only take seconds, okay? Even if it's just subscribing or just hitting the 5 star rating button, I'd appreciate it. So please go ahead and do that. All right, today I was actually planning to talk about something else, but we'll come back to that because the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors just released their market stats for the month of January. So now we have January's data. I don't know why it always comes so late, but we have it. And we're going to go over it because you guys deserve to know exactly what is happening in the market right now. And so here we go. So we're going to start right at the top with closed sales. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the data here. If you're looking on YouTube, you can actually see the graphs and the charts that I'm looking at, assuming that the share screen function of Zoom works. So here we are with closed sales. And closed sales is now running 4 straight months year-on-year positives. So we are, and really, if you don't include September, because September was an anomaly, right? That's when we had the hurricane. September data is kind of junk data. Really, I think we can basically say we've had 7 straight months of positive closed data year on year when it comes to closed sales. So January of 2025, we had 977 closed sales. That compared to January of 24 was 881. That's a 10.9% increase. That's strong. We've had 3 straight months of double-digit year-on-year increases now. People are starting to finally close on their sales. Okay, this is good. People aren't backing out as much. Things are actually getting to the closing table. People are starting to adjust to the new normal that is the current market. Let's look on days on market until sale. This is one of the numbers that pops out to me. We just jumped into the 60s. We went straight from 54 days on market till sale in December to 61 days on market till sale in January. What does that mean? That's the average number of days between when a property is listed and when an offer is accepted in a given month. That's a 17.3% increase from last year, which was 52 days on market until sale in January of 24. So what's going on there? This is what we're dealing with right now is buyers. Yes, they are closing more regularly, but they are taking a while to decide what property they want. They're not rushing into anything. Things slowed way, way down during the holidays. Things slowed way, way down in January. We did have a few weird, snow, ice events that we don't have super often here in Greenville. And those sorts of things impacted things as well. But here we are now. This is the highest days on market until sale that we've had since COVID. Okay, if you're looking at the data, the last time we got up above 60 was right before COVID. Okay, and then it didn't drop back down until after lockdowns happened during the pandemic, and then things stayed really low. And we've been knocking at the door of 60 days now for a while, right? We knocked on it early 23. We knocked on it early 24. Now we've crested 60 days, now up to 61 days on market in January of 2025. Now you'll notice the standard pattern that we have is that the days on market do tend to uh, peak this time of year. Okay, sometime in the early months of the year is when the peak happens, January, February, March, somewhere in there. We may already be at the peak. If not, maybe we'll see it go up to 62 or 63, and then it'll start to fall back down to the 50s, maybe even the 40s as well. We'll have to see. So I'm not drawing a whole lot from this outside of seasonality, outside of that we had, like I said, a few weird weather events that caused some issues as well. But long story short, it is taking longer to sell a home than it has at any time in recent history, basically in the past 5 years. Okay. So sellers, you need to be prepared for that. It's taking longer, and it just is. There's no amount of marketing that can fix it. Now, here's what I will say. A lot of sellers are not pricing their homes correctly, and a lot of listing agents aren't pricing the homes correctly. And that is causing some of this problem as well, right? We're having, people aren't budging off the numbers that they think their home is worth. And the end result of that is buyers are just kind of like, okay, if you think your home is worth 500,000, but everything I'm looking at says it's worth 470, well, I'm just going to wait until you drop the price down a few times and get close to 470, and then maybe I'll consider submitting an offer. So that's some of what we're seeing happening there. Median sales price. The median is what we tend to look at to see directionally where the market is going. And directionally where the market is going is not good if you're a seller. It's great if you're a buyer. But we have now had 5 straight months of year-on-year declines to the median sales price. Now, the month of January, it declined from 311,500 median sales price from January 24 down to 305 January 25. I've already told you guys, expect to potentially see some more months of decreases. I said that February was the month that would surprise me if we saw a year-on-year decrease for the month of February. And then after that, it's kind of all bets are off. So I expected this for January down to 2.1% year on year. I do not expect that for February, but we'll see. Check back in a month and we'll see. If prices have declined again in February, then that is an interesting sign. I'm not going to say it's a bad sign, right? Because all of this data kind of cuts both ways, right? It's bad for sellers, but it's good for buyers. And in general, we don't want this trend to continue, right? Because ultimately, people want their real estate to appreciate in value. And that goes for buyers as well. Buyers don't want to see prices falling nonstop. That would mean nobody would buy. They would just rent, right? By the way, there's an appraiser that I'm friends with. Hopefully at some point we'll have him on the show here, who is putting up the yellow flag, like at the beach, wind advisory, strong wave advisory, not a red flag yet, but it's a yellow flag that he's running some models that would indicate to him that there is going to be some problems with homes appraising here in the future. We need to be fully prepared for that. If you're a seller, you get an offer that does not have an appraisal contingency. You accept that offer and you do not think twice, okay? Obviously, there's other considerations than that. But if it's a good offer in every other way, then absolutely, you don't want to be messing with appraisers right now. I never get homes appraised prior to listings. Very, very rare. It has to be a unique home, usually at a higher price point for me to consider it. I just got a $400,000 home appraised prior to listing it. It's we're gonna list it for exactly what it appraised for, I felt the need to do that, and it was worth it, to be completely honest. I'm not gonna get into all the details there, but we are in a weird time when it comes to the state of the market right now, and sellers just need to be prepared. Appraisals this data is going to start getting baked into these appraisals, and it's going to hurt in some areas if you're a seller. Not in every area, not every market's the same. By the way, one more little tidbit here. This is not in line with the state data. Greenville is seeing these median sales price declines when much of the rest of the state of South Carolina isn't. Why is that? Because Greenville is an affordability market, okay? We need to understand this. When people go to Charleston, they don't go to Charleston for affordability. I mean, it might be maybe if they're comparing it to like Miami Beach, yeah, sure, more affordable. But Charleston's one of the most expensive markets in South Carolina. We'll be talking about this actually probably next week because I'm going to be comparing Greenville to some other markets. And that was what I was going to do today, but this data came up and I'd rather do this right now. But Charleston is not a place, if you're moving to South Carolina, you don't move to Charleston specifically for housing affordability because it's way more expensive than most of the state. Okay. If you move to Greenville, one of the biggest perks is affordability. And so when affordability gets shot because mortgage rates are where they're at, then guess what? Another lever has to get squeezed. What lever is getting squeezed is home prices. People aren't willing to pay these top dollar prices while paying top dollar mortgage rates. And I think that that's what we're experiencing here. But again, I think we're going to see the trend reverse probably start in February. Will that reversal continue for the rest of the year? Maybe, maybe not. But this is a very unusual trend. I make no mistake about it. This is an unusual trend that could become a concerning trend if these price decreases continued on for the foreseeable future. The average sales price, again, the median is more accurate in terms of like what people are actually paying. The average is skewed by homes on the high end. So I don't put a whole lot of thought into this, but the average has gone up now 4 straight months, unlike the median. So the median price is going down. The average, however, is going up. The average for January was 384,478. That's a 1.7% increase from January 24 of $378,039. So what does that tell me? That tells me the upper end of the market is more of a thing now in Greenville than it was last year. It was more of a thing last year than it was the year before. If you look at if you're looking on YouTube, you look at the chart, it's remarkable how the average stayed below 200,000 for so many years. Going back to this chart goes all the way back to 2007. And it wasn't until 2014 that we started to see it creep above. Well, then it has just been continuing to go up. We had one, outlier month last year, the month of October when it was 414. But in general, it's been in a straight line trajectory up towards 400,000 since 2014. And I'd be pretty surprised if we don't break 400,000 on the average by the end of this year. So we'll see. Percent of list price received. This is the percentage found when dividing a property's sales price by its most recent list price. Important detail, it does not factor price changes. Most recent list price. Then taking the average for all properties sold in a given month, not accounting for seller concessions. Okay, also an important detail. This doesn't account for sellers are paying closing costs, things of that nature. The percent of list price received. Okay, if you list a home for 100,000, what will you get for it? For the month of January, you got 97,700, okay? Because it was 97.7% list price received. And as a seller, you were probably also asked for some concessions too, okay? That's something not baked into this data, as I already said. How does that compare to last year? That is a 0.4% decrease from last year. So also, not a great sign. Not a great sign if you're a seller right now. Another decrease in January. Now, do I expect this to rebound? In February, I do. Again, there's a seasonality element to this, and if you look at previous years, the vertical lines are the Januaries. January frequently is the seasonal bottom for the percent of list price received. And what you have a variety of things happening. You have sellers that got through the holidays and they're just like, I'm just ready to sell this home. You've got buyers that are not as aggressive in the month of January because to them, they still have the entire year left ahead, to find a home potentially. A lot of people's leases don't end in January. A lot of people's leases end in May, June, July. And so there's just not a whole lot of urgency if you're a buyer, but there might be a whole lot of urgency if you're a seller. If you're a seller that listed your home in the fourth quarter of a year, you're probably in an urgent sale situation, right? Because you listed your home during the worst time to list your home. And so this is what happens. Okay, the aftershock is sellers are a little bit more willing to negotiate in January, and buyers are a little bit less, and that results in the percent of list price received being lower in that month. But interesting that it's lower year on year from January of 24. So we'll keep tracking that. Housing affordability index unchanged year on year, which is somewhat of a good thing, I guess. It would be nice. It would be really nice if it went up a little bit, right? We want the housing affordability index to be 100. It's 98 right now. At least 100, right? 100 means that the average family can afford the average priced home. Um, so it's at 98. With median prices going down, you would hope that would help to drive this number up. But again, mortgage rates are keeping this up because this number factors in mortgage rates, it factors in median home prices, and it factors in household income. It's comparing all those three data points, and unfortunately, we're still kind of stuck in 98. But month on month, that is an increase. December was 97. We went up in January to 98. So we at least have that little bit of positivity to give to you guys if you're a buyer. Inventory of homes for sale. This one really surprised me. Okay. And I'm actually I've got on the side here, you guys can't see it if you're looking at YouTube. I have, um, oh, you know what? Hold on here. What am I doing? What am I doing? Did I skip? I think I might have actually accidentally skipped pending sales. I want to talk about pending sales for just 1 second here. Um, my brain is mush at the moment. I'm at the end of my day. So apologies. But if I already talked about this, but I'm going to talk about it here again for a second. Pending sales. Okay. Pending sales are the number of properties that have had offers accepted in a given month. It's always wrong for the most recent month of January. So we'll look at December. December was revised as predicted, but it wasn't revised as much as I thought. Now, December had a year-on-year increase in pending sales still, a 2.1% increase, 920 pending sales versus 901 in the January before, in the December before. And then January, again, this number is going to be revised, but January was way lower. Okay. And even with revisions, I don't think we're going to see January be a good month. I think we're going to see a substantial decrease in pending sales once this data gets revised. Because currently it's sitting at 787 pending sales for January. I would expect that to get revised up to 11 to 1200. But January of 2024 was 1332. So we're definitely, I mean, I would put money on it if I could, that January 25 is going to end up being, probably close to 10% lower than January of 24. And so again, a slow start to the year for one reason or another. But as we already talked about, the closed sales data has been strong. Okay. Now, what we may see is that the February closed sales data ends up being weak because the pending sales from January was weak. But what we're also seeing is that the pendings and the closings are there's not as big of a spread between the two of them. What does that mean? More homes that are going under contract are actually closing. And that's good. That's good for all parties, right? That means sellers are actually, doing repairs and doing things that they need to do. That means homes are appraising, or that parties are able to figure out a way to negotiate a low appraisal. That means that buyers are serious when they make offers. That means a whole lot of things that haven't necessarily been able to say for a while. And so I am positive. I feel good about that. Okay. I apologize for that. I don't know why. I believe I skipped it. Although I'm looking at a whole bunch of data, and as I already said, I haven't had a ton of time to review all of this because literally I got it right as I was sitting down to record this. So let's look at inventory again. Let's go back to that for a second here. So inventory is always revised down, right? So December inventory was listed last month as being 4413. That got revised down to 4146. That's still basically a 20% increase year on year from December of 2023. January is currently sitting at 4,638. That would be a huge increase from January 24, which was 3,504. But January is going to get revised down as well. You know, call it 4,300. That's still a huge increase year on year. Okay, that's still going to be like a 20% increase year on year. What do I make of this? I'm actually kind of surprised because if I pull up the multiple listing service and just look at everything as active, it's way below this number. Okay, and it's been at kind of standard seasonal lows, right? If you're looking at the chart, you can see inventory typically bottoms out in January-ish timeframe. Sometimes it bottoms out in February or March. But it typically does. Now, in recent years, it's been bottoming out later in the spring. Well, in some years, it bottomed out in 24 in January. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I don't feel like this number matches what I'm seeing. I'm seeing less inventory than what is being showed in this data. So I'm be very interested to see if this gets revised down. But at the moment, it looks like inventory. Either way, even if this gets heavily revised based on just what I'm seeing, inventory is still higher than what it was a year ago. Okay, so buyers have more options, sellers have more competition, but I'm just a little bit surprised that it's this much higher. I thought it would be 5% higher, not 20, not potentially 20%. So that's just something that we'll have to keep tabs on and see exactly what happens. And then month supply, of course, you're dividing pending sales. You're dividing inventory by pending sales. I just told you guys that both those numbers are going to be revised. So we don't know what this number is going to come in at. Currently, 3.5 months of inventory. Okay, what does that mean? That means that if these numbers were accurate, which they aren't, but if they were accurate, if we didn't have any more listings at the absorption rate we currently have, it would take 3.5 months for every house in the multiple listing service to get sold. Okay, if the absorption rate stayed the same, but listings fell off a cliff, we didn't get a single new listing for 3.5 months, everything would get sold between now and then. That's a massive, if it stays at 3.5, which again, it won't. What's it going to go down to? Probably 3.2, right? Because December just got revised to 3.0 and it was 3.3 last month was before it got revised. So January is probably going to be 3.2. That's still a huge increase from January 24, which is 2.7. So again, buyers have more options, and this is something, I'm not seeing as much this month in February, so I expect this number to go down. But some of these numbers aren't exactly reflective of what I'm personally seeing, and I'm not exactly sure why. But I'm just going to follow the data like I always have. Currently, it looks like inventory went up substantially from January a year ago, and that's something to keep tabs on. So that is all that we have for today. Please feel free to let me know if you guys have any specific questions about any of this data. Sometimes you guys do have questions, sometimes you don't. My contact information is in the show notes. If you do have questions on it, you guys know I'm accessible. And of course, Piper Insurance Group, Home Auto, Umbrella Insurance, and of course, please like, rate, review, subscribe, all of those good things to help support the show. And we will talk to you guys again next week.